All right, jumping right back into it here. Just as a recap, in case you guys are watching the videos again, we're going to do a western facade system, kind of like this, probably vertical. And we're going to do a southern facade system using perforations and overhang or awning. And then an eastern facade system that's similar but not truncated and triangulated. Starting with the south facade, right, we're basically going to use the X, Y, and Z, or the X and Y axis as our east and north, essentially. So X direction is going to be our east. The Y direction to the bottom of our screen is going to be south. And then the X direction to the other direction is west. So let's talk real quickly about what you have to do to get an existing definition into your model. So we can actually open up Grasshopper to start and open up the file that you had in the previous class, the patterns and perforations example. I think it was perforated panel that I called it. You might not have called it that. So right off the bat, the first thing we notice is that while I had this definition built and working, when I referenced my own surface that I created in a separate file, now a lot of these components are showing up orange. And they show up orange because, well, they're broken, essentially. They're not being fed information. So generally, I want to tell you, as a best practice for troubleshooting broken definitions, is to start wherever you see orange or red and just keep working backwards. So if I just keep following the orange and red all the way back, what I find is that right here, my original surface is not referenced, right? Obviously, it's a new file. It doesn't exist here. Let's see. Not that, sorry. I wanted to manage, see if it actually. So here under manage surfaces, you can see that it's just not there, right? It's trying to find one that doesn't exist in this file. So what we have to do is in Grasshopper, or in Rhino, sorry, is create a surface for it to be referenced to. So the first thought I had is that I'm going to simulate that this is a kind of a curtain wall. Really, for now, my effort isn't really going to go any farther than just creating a panel that is my glass. And then I'm going to put another surface in front of it that is my perforation, my perforated surface. So I can do that by basically grabbing a box, and I can just click one corner. Actually, I'm going to use the midpoint so that it's kind of set back from the flush surface at the front. So I'll click it to the midpoint, and then I'll go up here to the other side, and I'm going to go to, actually, I decided against that. Let's see. Well, how wide is my opening? I'll do it that way. So my opening is 16 feet wide, so is yours. So I can use the box. I'm going to start a box from the midpoint, and I'll say at 16 feet, because that's in the X direction, comma 1 inch, just a 1 inch thick glazing element. So that kind of brings it to the end. It's 1 inch thick. And then all I have to do is just go up here to one of these top ones and click it. And I've got a full height, 1 inch thick glass panel. Now, that's my glass. That's not the surface that I'm going to use to create my perforation. If you look at any kind of detail for, let's look at a perforated glazing screen. Well, this is okay. So basically, anytime you're going to put like a perforation as a sunshade in front of your window system, it exists in front of your window system, not on your window system. If it's on your window system, it's going to be fritted glass or some kind of film that gets applied directly to the surface. So right now, since we're not experts in Grasshopper yet, we're going to simplify it, not worry about the hardware, and we're just going to create a floating surface. And so that floating surface, where's Rhino? There it is. That floating surface I'm going to put on a separate layer, one that I can turn off while I'm working in Grasshopper. So I'll put it on layer 1. Okay, I activated layer 1, and for simplicity's sake, I'm not going to parameterize the height of my surface yet. We'll kind of backpedal for that later when it becomes necessary. But for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to go halfway up for now, just to show you how to get it into the model. So I'll do a, you could do a 4-point surface, or you could do a planar surface. Will 4-point do it for me? Yeah, it probably will. So I'm just going to do a 4-point surface. So click that button over there. And I'm going to go from the end point in the front to the midpoint, to the midpoint, and then the bottom point right there. Okay, so this created a secondary surface that kind of just exists in front of my other surface. And now we can grab the top point and we could just kind of pull it up and down as we see fit. So I'll just kind of yank it up a little bit further because the midway point really wasn't what I was looking for here. All right. So I'm going to reference this in just a second, but I want to make sure that you're still in tow with me. So I'll pause it here, make sure you're caught up, and then we'll get going again. Let's continue. So we've got our surface referenced in, and now we want to basically just take our pattern that we developed in our previous exercise and apply it. And it's really, really simple at this point. All you do is, there we go. Open up Grasshopper. I'll go in perspective here. Open up Grasshopper and select the original surface that you referenced in. Right-click it, go to Set One Surface, and now select the new one that you just created, which is right here. It'll take a moment to calculate, and you'll have to turn the layer off of the surface afterwards, or it's going to look weird. But essentially, all of the parameters that you set up for your previous panel exercise are now going to be applied to this one. So, waiting. Yeah, I hope I didn't break it.
We need to upgrade these computers.
They really do. They're bad.
Does yours do this? Or
My personal computer, no.
Yeah.
Occasionally, I've gotten in some loops once, but that's because I made a programming error. I'm going to pause this while it loads. All right, guys. So I keep crashing on mine, and I opened it up in another file, and I'm pretty sure what's going on is that the circles for this. So what happens is when we built this original one, I'm pretty sure we built it in inches, and we have these things here that are, this is our offset to make the surface smaller, right? And it's set to 1.15. So on our building, right off the bat, what I know is that the distance here from top to bottom right now is only 4 feet. So that surface then only becomes 2 feet tall after it's offset. Remember we did that exercise? So we also have the size of the circles, which we have a subdivision now of 18 and 10, and every single one of them is 0.55. So when we're working in a file that's feet instead of inches, our circle's radius is 0.55 feet. So our radius is over a foot. So we've got 18 subdivisions, so 18 circles that are bigger than the surface that it's even on. So now in this one, what I'm going to do instead is change the numerical values to be inch-based before I link it in. So right off the bat, I think what I want to do, since I'm doing circles, I probably want to make the circles based off of inches rather than feet. So to do that, you can use a mathematical operator. If you know how to do the math and you just make a slider that's small enough, that's fine too. But I'm going to go to Math, Operators, and Division. And And with division, I can divide by 12. Oops. So basically 0.55 feet divided by 12 is going to give me the decimal value for inches when our operator, or when our software is reading in feet. Does that make sense? Okay. So I plug that into radius to override that connection. And I copy this back to the beginning. Oh, sorry. It appears over here. Copy it back to the beginning, and I do the same thing with the 1.15 for my offset. And I can plug that in to the negative here. So now that should be small enough, and I'm even going to reduce it. Well, I mean, I'm also going to reduce the subdivisions. Okay, so I'm just going to simplify the subdivisions to make it something that's going to be easily digestible, and then bring it up so that it's not overwhelming. So my U count, I forget what the parameters are. I'm just going to do 4 and 4. You can double click it, type in 4, double click this, type in 4, and then save. Save it, and then go to Rhino and save it. And then you should be able to set one surface, plug it in, and there it is. All right, so I'll turn that layer off. So there we go. These are my perforations right now. Yes?
I think we need a time to catch up.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I want to finish the thought here, and then I'll help you guys out. So I'm just kind of talking through the whole thing. So just to, I can increase my offset here to make it like 2 inches, and then I can start working on my subdivisions. Oh, got a little frozen here. Okay. All right, so I'm going to stop this video here. Right now, this isn't really super dense. We'll kind of clarify it, get it ready for the next part when we want to do some real dynamic patterning. I'll be around to help out.